AI, will you start to do things like determining whether somebody's telling the truth or not telling the truth? Like, you're saying that you're not using this video, but the things that humans have difficulty doing is separating that bias. So, are you going to actually inject a layer of AI there where you'll start to tell who's faking it versus truly the right candidate?
Probably. Probably.
And then I guess my next question then becomes, will the humans being interviewed, I get it, if they don't have a choice, they must go through this platform, but will they stay away from companies that are using these kinds of technologies? Will they prefer to go to a human to be interviewed?
No, because every company on earth is going to be using this kind of technology when they realize how much they're going to save cost-wise.
No choice.
They won't have a choice. Yeah.
Hey, congrats on a very cool company. So just two questions. One, what evidence or scientific evidence do you have that this actually works in terms of an e-bias?
Sure. Great question. So first of all, we're not analyzing anything to do with the video data. We're strictly streaming the conversation itself, analyzing the experience that that person has, and scoring them based on that against the criteria of that role. The transcript, yes, exactly.
But can you walk me through the theory of change, right? So a lot of HR tech companies, they have like an organizational behavior, like professor or academic, to show that, all right, so we got to deep dive on leadership.
Sure.
So you want the algorithm to say, we're going to deep dive on team management, setting the vision, and such, and this, therefore, asking these questions in this way will lead to this kind of prediction, right? So that requires like a theory of change or some kind of evidence-based approach of this is valid. So do you have any of that kind of stuff?
We do. I mean, that's what we spent a lot of our time testing over the last year. We run the interviews through the system, and then we have experts come in and look at what were the scores, and then they say
like
this is.
McGill or like.
I mean experts from whatever industry. If you're interviewing a machine learning person, let's say, machine learning engineer, you have somebody with 10 years of machine learning experience look over their evaluations and say, this is good, this is not good, this is how this should be scored, that type of thing.
Let me move on from that. Thank you for that.
Sure.
HR is a very fragmented market, so congrats on getting the $400 a month customer. But what's like the strategy to land and expand? Because there's a reason why a lot of investors kind of stay away from HR tech. It's a very difficult go-to-market strategy. So
mass automation. One of the things, first of all, is that we're saving companies, again, 10x what they're spending with us. Companies at scale, I mean, across the globe are starting to adopt this kind of thing. I have the largest weed manufacturer in the US. The CEO told the head of HR, you have to automate all of your AI or all of your HR processes, hiring processes with AI by H2 2025. He and I talked 2 months ago, and he told me that none of the technologies he's seen have impressed him. After I showed him Searchless, he went to his CEO and he pitched it to the CEO. And so that deal is still in motion because they don't want to start that adoption process until H2. But the point is, CEOs are demanding it now in every department.
Just a quick follow-up on that. There's kind of a marketing fatigue around AI. Like, people are just tired of hearing the same pitch around like 10x improvement, time saving, and so forth. So apart from all that time saving that you mentioned, like, what's the value you're bringing to your customer that will differentiate you in a market that's going to be super crowded? Like, I've heard multiple pitch similar to that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, one of the big things is we're doing deep dives on people's skills, their functional competencies, not just doing a quick screen. Hi, how are you? What school did you go to? Do you live in Canada? That kind of thing. We're actually saying, can you tell me about your Python experience? Can you give me an example of a machine learning model that you built? Thank you. How did you go about doing it? Why did you make those decisions in building that model? Those kinds of things. And
can you do just like the first round interviews, or you're doing the full interview process with like second round, third round, and so on?
It's actually both, right at the beginning though. So we're actually condensing the entire hiring process into a single interview.
How are you validating that? So right now I hear from you is you're doing the screening portion, and it's based on what I'm telling you. So coming back to Phil's question, like, I could tell you anything I want. So how do you validate that I did do this model? Because often when we're interviewing, I often find that people embellish when they're on a team.
Sure.
And then they take the credit for people's work.
Absolutely.
And they say that they did the thing, but when we get into the so when you say we're gonna validate the functional expertise, like how do you do that? You're gonna get them to code Python on the platform?
Let me give you an example. So right now I'm interviewing enterprise success managers for that client that I'm pitching right now. They're actually going through interviews as we speak. And our system is telling me that this person's good or they're not good because of this or that. And so I'm just not wasting my time on all the ones that are clear no's. So all the ones that look like they're a clear yes, I'll interview them. But I don't have to interview 20 people now. I can interview 2 or 3.
But
So
how
it's
is
the
that
same.
different than the current process? Like the current process is, like let's say I have an HR manager that
Right.
screens. Like I only interview 5 people.
Do you trust your HR manager to know the functional things that you do?
Yes.
Really? Okay. Okay.
Well,
Do you interview people after your HR manager interviews them?
Yes.
Why?
Because for culture, for fit on the team, these are things that my HR manager won't be able to screen for.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand how your platform can nuance culture and fit with my team. And that's why I think HR tech, like we've invested in quite a few HR companies actually, and they are very, very difficult because it's really hard to automate an intuition on what you think this fits inside a team and how you believe that they have growth aspirations. Like I can interview someone and be like, okay, well, I believe they will eventually in 2-3 years be my next principal or cross across a different business unit. Whereas I'm trying to understand how your platform will do that kind of work
I guess,
as an experience.
Maybe let me put it this way. Do you want your HR manager talking to 50 random people out of 1,000 applications? Or do you want them talking to the 50 best people out of those 1,000 applications?
I feel like that question is a non-question because obviously
yeah, exactly.
But my HR manager is doing that work now.
Yeah, but they're not talking to every candidate. They're talking to the ones that they think are the best based on what resumes, which are written by AI, and they're inflated. People keyword stuff. People exaggerate on the resumes, so they're wasting their time with a lot of the people they're screening.
Okay.
On the marketing front and getting to market, have you considered a beachhead approach where you're really going to target one type of employee and improve it and do that perfectly and then grow? Or is it really wide and going to this telecom company is like, I can do all your employees?
We're going to start with a pilot recommendation. I mean, I think they're not going to want to do a full-scale rollout. We just don't have the competency to do that right now. So we'd start with something low value like a retail. Like the retail.
So I guess that's my question, is if you looked at the market and said, this is going to really work well for this type of job, where maybe culture is a little bit less important, but I can really test out these questions, and what type of jobs would those be in that sort of more narrowly focused jobs?
It really depends on the client and what they want to test it on. I think that's what it comes down to. I'd suggest a lower value role, intern level, entry level type of roles.
Right. I do find it interesting that you are taking the approach of not using the video as part of your analysis. It would strike me that for some positions, the way you present would actually be super important. And so why scrub that out? I understand the idea that we can have a more even base, like it's not based on, color, gender, and all those things, but at the same time, is that not important for some of us?
It definitely is, and that's why we share the video recording with whoever's reviewing it. For now, I think I want to avoid bias altogether. Eventually, yes, we'll probably have some insights on that, but it's difficult to do without having that bias leak, and that's why we're trying to avoid that.
30 seconds. Want to do a little song and dance now? In 30 seconds, I'm not going to try and occupy 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really good problem to hack at. I definitely think that to your point that it's coming. There's definitely openness to figure this out in a way that is humane. I think balancing that, and I think your answer with regards to how do we do this in a low like how do I walk before run, and I think entry level jobs I think are a really good beta to test the system to see if it's and if you get efficacy on that, and then you start to get more complex where I think I was heading into like the culture pieces of like more senior roles. I've been eyeing more senior roles, but I think to your point of getting your beta scrubbed, I think that's a really good place to start.
Thank you.
The only thing is, I think the caveat is that will you be able to extract as much revenue from low hanging fruit roles? That's like the caveat that you'll have to figure out.
For sure.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.